Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Tea Time with the Translations Film Festival brought to you by $3 Cinema. Now, before we get started, I want to do just a little quick acknowledgement. And that is, I want to start by acknowledging that the Seattle Trans Film Festival and $3 Bill Cinema operate on the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, Muckleshoot, Stillaguamish, and Coast Salish people. I personally am calling in from Atlanta, Georgia, and that is on Muskogee lands. It is important for us to know that the Duwamish people are still here, as well as people from indigenous territories across Turtle Island, also known as North America. Find out whose land you're on by visiting native-land.ca. Now, if we are guests where we live or visit, meaning that our ancestors came from somewhere else, there is an opportunity for us to pay rent or land tax as a small step to be in solidarity with the first people of this land. For more information on how to be in solidarity with the indigenous people of Turtle Island, check out realrentduwamish.org. And for more resources, check out the Land Reparations and Indigenous Solidarity Toolkit. Now, as I said before, I am your host today, Ava Davis, also known as the Duchess of Grant Park. And I'm excited to be hosting this year's Tea Time. Yesterday, we had a marvelous conversation with Stormy Gale Flores and Ben. Why am I forgetting so many names? Oh my, Sam Berliner. It's been a very busy 2 days. And I'm so excited for the day that we have ahead of us. Today, we have on Sarah Hill, Flo Singer Ben Dame. And let's go and bring on our guests.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I did a little introduction, but if you don't mind introducing yourselves and your pronouns. Oh, dear God.
Sure, I can go first. I'm Sarah
Yes,
Hill.
sorry.
I use they, them pronouns. I take all pronouns, but I like they, them. I'm currently living in New Orleans, and I've been here for about 5 years. And I'm a trans filmmaker who makes films for trans people.
Okay. And then let's start with the next group, Flo and Ben. Let's start with Flo. How about that?
Okay. Hi. My name is Flo. My pronouns are they, them. And I am a documentary filmmaker and based in, right now, Orange, but based in LA area. So.
I'm Ben. I use he, him pronouns. I'm also based in Orange with Flo, and I'm from Atlanta.
Love having a fellow Atlantan on this. I just feel so at home already. I just want to pull out a bowl of grits and start eating them, but I won't. So let's get into this, and let's start with you, Sarah. But Sarah, you said you're a filmmaker, but can you expand on that just a little bit? How you got started and why you do what you do?
Sure. I actually went to art school, and I focused more on performance in art school, and then I sort of found video and film after that. And like really sort of like taught myself how to do film. But I feel like my films are more like sort of like a mash of like performance and video, if that makes sense, and painting, because I got my undergrad in painting. But there's like everything from puppets to like animation to cut paper to painting as animation.
Yeah, I saw some of your previous work and it looked so delightful. I can't remember what specifically I saw, but I think it looked like still motion, and I wish I had a better memory right now, but it's just completely shot. But you also have quite the extensive CV I saw on your website as well.
Yeah. It doesn't feel fancy because like I'm a substitute teacher, so like that's how I make my money. So I have to remind myself that like I do art.
You do art. You did quite well.
Thank you.
And then Flo, if you will go next and just what you do and why you do what you do.
Yeah, so right now I'm currently finishing up my undergrad for documentary filmmaking. And how I got into documentary was actually I did, print journalism in high school for the school newspaper, and this was like the only film program that I had applied to. The rest was like print journalism and stuff like that. So I don't know. I was just like, this sounds cool. I've always really loved film. And honestly, it wasn't until I feel like halfway, because my major is broadcast journalism and documentaries. So I was really into broadcast journalism, but then like slowly I started moving into documentary. I was like, oh, I really love this. And I love, especially experimental documentary too, which is something that I'm very interested in. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Okay. Just gonna follow up there just a little bit. What is experimental documentary film? I'm quite curious.
It's honestly, it's endless. It's boundless. It's I
Sorry
yeah,
to put you on the spot there.
really good question. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I feel like I aspire I'm pretty new into filmmaking, so not yeah, like so I tried to incorporate more experimental elements. Just something that I don't know, like something that's not typically that you see in like the I guess standard structure of documentary filmmaking. So whether that's through like other mediums of like animation, sorry, you were talking about like animation and like using puppets, and I was like, oh, that's like definitely in the realm that like I love, and just I don't know, using other ways and mediums to tell the story other than um,
A
the
talking head.
yeah, exactly. So yeah.
I love that. It's a way to make it more engaging and hopefully not that it's about, well, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ben, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, I kind of focus more on narrative film. My major I'm currently finishing up is film production, and I want to direct. But the last couple years, I've been really interested in documentary. I kind of like how it's grounded in reality and gives you more of an opportunity to deal with things that people are actually kind of experiencing and facing in the real world. I also just love talking to all sorts of different kinds of people. So that's been great as well.
I love all of that. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into your works? Because all of you have documentaries in the festival, correct?
Yes.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Tell us.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the sure. Well, I guess how would you classify it?
I have no idea. I guess experimental. Yeah, I mean, I guess like I didn't even think about it as documentary. I think that's an interesting lens to put onto it for sure, because like it is at the end of the day documenting like a moment in time, you know. But my piece is called "My Name Is Sarah," and that's my birth name. So, and it's the name that I was given, and I didn't decide to like choose my name when I transitioned. Though, like, I have lied to my doctors. Like, I have a different name of the doctor. So, but for the most part, like, my film is all about like my sort of like journey, like with my name.
And I love that topic because I remember starting to transition, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's still a journey. But the first thing people kept asking is, what is your name going to be? And I was like, well, I had not considered changing my name. Why do I have to change?
Right.
I got really angry about it, but then I also got tired of answering the question. And so here I am as the Duchess of Grant Park. But can you speak more on why you chose My Name Is Sarah?
I think it's just like this moment for me that like sorry, my cat is gonna come up.
I love cats. I already noticed that Flo has a visitor, and I'm in just bring out all the animals. Yes.
He gets so jealous. I'm sorry. Okay, so back to the question, which was
It wasn't really a question, I guess, so much as a statement, and I do that a lot. But you chose the focus as your name and your history with it.
Right.
Why did you choose that as the focus of this? I guess for ease of sake, we're going to call it an experimental documentary film, but
Sure.
it's just a beautiful amalgamation of so many different things.
I think it was I just kept having these moments with people that like as like because I've been on testosterone for like 12 plus years, so it's like it's the journey for like the beginning, like it was sort of that same story of like, what's your new name, like what are you gonna choose, like, and I kept trying to find new names, and like nothing ever really worked, and then like I kept like whatever name I chose, I would name my cat after it, or like someone else would get the name, do you know what I mean, like and so there are just like all these moments, because the film is kind of like made up of little segments of different little stories that I've had engaging with specific people. I'm trying. My favorite moment in the film was when I was, because I'm a substitute teacher. So there was a school that I went to that actually had a guinea pig named Mr. Sarah, and I really didn't like. I didn't realize. So I really thought that they were just calling me Mr. Sarah for like a
Oh my
whole year.
God.
For a whole year. And so it's like this
love that so much.
yeah. And so it's just like these moments, and I'm like, how do I like compartmentalize this like into like a short narrative? So for me, it's like there's sadness and humor within it, and like this struggle of like, why should I have to change my name just to make other people comfortable, when it's like I haven't really found a name that has like that I identify with, and it would feel like just very inauthentic for me specifically.
Yeah.
So,
I was reading through some of your other stuff, and you had this quote in, don't ask me what article it was, but it's a quote that says, "My body belongs to me, and I'm going to do with it what I choose to do until I die." And
right.
I just want to, all of the snaps, that resonated with me so deeply. Um, really, I just want to hear your thoughts on that. There's not really a question.
It's wild because it's like that quote is definitely like from 12 years ago, which is like beautiful that like I'm still like standing in that quote, right? And I've like still like chosen not to like cave to the pressure of like like people almost like wanting or demanding like me to like change my name, or like go by a different, like, what is that, I don't know, I teach, so like I go by Miss Hill when I teach, so
Interesting.
yeah. And like it's like really, I feel like when I'm in school, like I'm definitely out as a trans person, you know, and I think like in a lot of beautiful ways it allows me to be out, and when I meet people. So
Okay. All right. And now let's pivot a little bit to Ben and Flo. And can you tell us a bit about your film and why you chose the subject matter that you did?
I can start that off. So our film is called One Lift at a Time, featuring Eva Reiko, who is a trans weightlifter, going into the professional weightlifting circuit. And so Ever and I met a couple years ago, and since then we've been really good friends. And I've been following Sarah's weightlifting career, and yeah, I mean, when we actually met in a queer studies class that we had together, and we had a lot of similar intersecting identities as each other, and we just really gravitated toward each other. And yeah, and so that's sort of how we got access to Ever and to make this documentary. And yeah, I mean, I was just very interested in like we've had like a lot of conversations and stuff about like Claire's journey in weightlifting, and so yeah, actually, it's funny because he texted me a few days ago, and we made it into the national competition for U25s, which is like the University 25s level. So yeah.
Congratulations. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know we're about to have lunch later today. So
Oh,
like yeah.
well, send them all my love. So then how did you and Ben partner up to make this documentary?
It was in a class. We had a project to do, and Flo kind of approached me with the idea of basing it around Ever's story. And then we all went out for ramen one day, I think, and I met Z, and they're super cool. And very interesting story, and I just knew that we could definitely make, a full feature-length documentary about Z and the whole world of weightlifting. So then it was just a matter of figuring out how to make it fit into such a short time frame. Yeah.
So just a curious question, because I know with documentaries you shoot a lot of footage. How much footage did you end up shooting?
Yeah, then you could add stuff.
I'm not sure. Probably about 2 or 3 hours interviews, and then probably 3 or 4 hours of content, like in the gym and then at the competition.
Oh my goodness. So how do you then even begin to start to narrow that down? And yeah, I'm having stress thinking about like trying to edit that much.
Trust, it was a journey. I think one of the hardest things was because everything that Ever said had so much purpose, and like, so in the class it was we had to condense it to like a 7-minute film, and there was like a lot of times where I was like, this part of the interview, like, this is a darling, and it's just like having to, I have no idea if it was just like, so we spent a lot of nights trying to figure out like, okay, how do we concise this to make it also coherent, and then but also being true to Ever and Z's story. So yeah, I mean that goes with a lot of great subjects. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that leads me into the next question for all of you, really. But so, when did you all shoot your documentary, both you and Ben and Sarah? Or not documentary, but films, I should rather say, because it's kind of a melange.
Did you say when?
Yes, when. That will kind of lead into the next question. Like, did you film it during the pandemic?
Yes. Yeah, it was kind of on the tail end, I guess I would say. It was about like 6 months ago, Flo. Would that be right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Sarah, when did you film yours?
I filmed it like through 2021 and then finished it early 2022.
Okay. Okay. And I know that because you were the subject, you had a lot more access to use. It was a bit easier. But for Ben and Flo, how was it trying to manage all of the shooting and everything throughout the pandemic, trying to stay health conscious with masks and everything?
Yeah.
And then
So
also, oops, I'm sorry. There's a secondary question to that of now that it's really into the political discourse about trans youth in sports and trans people just trying to breathe, apparently. Like, how did that factor into your documentary?
Yeah, so in terms of the COVID safety, whenever we would film in the gym, we went on days where there was nobody there. So that was like very, very great. Yeah, because yes, the pandemic was very stressful, scary time. Still is. And sorry, what was the second question?
Well, the second question is, at the time you were filming, did you think about what would then, and I don't know if it was as big as an issue then, but trans youth in sports and trans people in general just trying to live about their lives and do anything, it seems like, but specifically in sports.
Yeah. So one thing that Ever had talked about, which honestly I resonated a lot with too, was Z had said, that like Z has seen most of the trans athletes in individualized sports rather than being on teams. And so that was something that was really interesting. And we had talked about it in like season, like Twitter groups and stuff like that, and trying to find more trans athletes. It doesn't have to be like in weightlifting, but just, in general, and has found that most of them, if not all, are in like individual sports, which you know, it was something that it didn't really, I don't know. It's just like, okay, yeah, no, this makes sense. And
Did you learn anything interesting or new about the world of it was weightlifting, right?
yes, so I'm not a weightlifter. That then you're not you know.
No, I'm not either. I hate it. In fact, so sorry. It's heavy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I learned a lot about what it means to be a trans person in weightlifting through Ever, what it means to be a trans plus person on hormones in weightlifting, and just, you know, the injustices that comes with that, and, you know, being like, Ever tells me all the time just the weirdest shit that people tell like Zim, and just like I I don't know. It's just, you know, that's the part where, you know, we talk about it in self-preservation,
Right.
and how that is extremely important, especially just navigating you know, life and sports as well. So
Yeah. Well, so Sarah, that leads me to ask, so self-preservation for you, and you said also that you're a school teacher or a substitute teacher
Yeah.
in New Orleans, which is sounds like an interesting conundrum, but how is that in self there's not really a question there. It's so much
I
of a
mean,
blanket statement and curious about your experiences.
absolutely. I think as trans people, it's like employment is difficult sometimes, and I think like it's sad, but like I feel like a lot of my peers who wanted to teach college or teach in college, you know, and like I wanted to, but I haven't like had access or like ability to find a teaching job. So subbing has been for me like a way to like be a teacher, and like honestly in a way that probably matters more because like I think I've been a sub for 8 years, so and I love it. I actually really love it, and it allows me like flexibility to like make my art, and like I've made work about it. And it's definitely a part of like me and who I am as a person for sure.
That's the very interesting. So, what has prevented you from progressing? Like, if you'd wanted to pursue further teaching, what has prevented that?
Like there honestly like one of the segments in the short film, like there was a moment where like I did go to an interview, and the interviewee or the interviewer, I was the interviewee, but we both had the name Sarah, and I was like I should just walk out now because like I'm not getting this job. Like this is not happening. It was so awkward. I was like, this is like probably the worst interview I've ever had, you know?
Oh my God, that must. I'm only imagining the amount of whatever that could have been for you.
Yeah. So, and I think like a lot, honestly, it's like being trans, and also um like the medium like that I know how to teach is like film and performance, which is like I think it's still like, well, it's not new, it's still new in the world of academia.
So then that kind of leads into the next question. So Ben and Flo, y'all have, in my understanding, y'all are graduated, correct?
We're like 1 week away.
Congratulations, that's exciting.
Thank you.
So excited. Oh, I'm sending you all of the love. Do you have any advice for them as they go out there? And I don't know if they're going to pursue teaching or other endeavors, but
I think they could just keep going. Don't give up. A lot of people like I went to school with aren't making work, and like a lot of them are, but some of them aren't. And it's just I think believing in yourself enough, right? And believing that like you have a voice and something to say, and that it's important, even if no one is listening, or you feel like no one's listening, because somebody is.
Ben and Flo, how do you feel about your prospects after graduation?
Somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Are there
I'm pretty
nerves,
excited.
or do you like? What do you want to do after graduating?
What do you want to do, Flo?
I definitely want to continue pursuing documentary, and, you know, continuing to tell my own stories. I just finished a personal documentary where I'm including myself. Sarah, I give you so much props. Personal films. I had to do so much reflexive work in myself, and, you know, it's a journey, honestly. And so yeah, and just, you know, continuing to meet people, have honest conversations, and just pursue documentary. It's an art, and yeah, just continuing that art for myself and making films.
Is that the documentary that's on your website with the two sisters that interview?
Yes, yeah. So one of them is me, and then that's my half sister, and yeah, we were separated for years, and I found her on LinkedIn,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I was like, "Hey, what's up?" Like not like that, but you know, I was just like, "Hey," and then she lives in Boston now, and she grew up in Wuhan, China, and has moved to Boston, has lived there for 5 years now, and um, yes, and I think with that too was not only having to like face, you know, myself in front of a camera because I'm not used to that, but also, you know, facing a lot of um, you know, family issues and stuff like that, stuff that I didn't even realize that I needed to, you know, face and really talk about. So yeah, yeah, it's I just finished it, so it'll make its way out there somehow. So
Oh, I was absolutely intrigued by it, and I want to go back and watch it again. But this leads me to the next question, and this is open to all of you. Feel free to chime in all at once or not at all. But the idea of using art to work through our issues, and Sarah, I mean, your film is about working through the name issue, but how does art factor into your life, into helping you problem solve or tackle mental health or anything like that?
I think like I'm sorry, unless someone has like a dying need to answer it. For me, I feel like I've always framed it as like this is not therapy, right? Like art is like a lens which you can like share a story, and like you're not going to like give the viewer absolutely everything. You know, you're not going to just like tell so they don't know absolutely everything about you. You know, and I think
Yeah.
really that's where the safety lies in terms of being able to tell my personal story.
I yes, I
Right?
that's so heavy. Um, that is something that I also had learned throughout, you know, making this last film, and people don't know what they're missing, and having that own part, like, you know, having to, so in my class I had to, you know, pitch my personal thing, and so of course my class knew everything about my story, but at the end of the day, like, you're the person who decides what you want to share
Mhm.
and how you want to share it. And I think that's, you know, that's the beautiful part of being able to like make art for yourself. Because essentially, I mean, I make my art for myself, and you know, if people watch it and they're like, wow, that also stands true, and for me too, like that's great.
Ben, any comments?
Yeah, I guess I hope this doesn't sound like a ramble, but I've been interested in how like film and art are kind of tied to memory and kind of how we see ourselves in our own kind of heads, and how this is like a kind of a physical expression of that, and us desperately trying to share what words really can't share with each other. Um, so I guess that might be kind of a romantic view that I hold because I'm kind of young and new to creating films, but it's been very fun to kind of explore through that lens.
Don't sell yourself short. You bring so much to the table, and it doesn't matter whether you've been doing this 1 year or 50 years. Like, your voice and your viewpoint are very much needed.
Thank you.
So, Ben, you said you mainly deal in narrative, right? And you joined forces for this documentary, but what type of works do you want to create?
That's a good question. I guess I really have been more interested in documentary as of lately. And I think that part of that was just working with Flo. They're such a great documentarian, and really just love to work with them. But I guess I want to continue down the documentary path. I also like that it can be done in smaller teams. I'm kind of scared of the idea of working for big budgets and trying to claw my way to the top of some pitch room or whatever to get the kind of money needed to make like a narrative piece. But I like that documentary. You can kind of maintain some control over the project yourself and work in smaller teams.
There's something to be said about working on smaller teams. You can have the 1,000-person crew, but that feels so corporate and impersonal. Whereas the smaller teams, there's that intimacy, and especially for documentaries, but also for narrative films, where you're essentially imbuing that intimacy into the film.
Absolutely.
All right, let's pivot to storytelling. Why is storytelling important to you all? And Sarah, let's start with you. Right, the heavy questions here.
I really liked what Ben said about memory, and I think like when I first my thesis, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do. It's exactly the story I wanted to tell, and it was really just the beginning for me, right? And I have this huge archive of footage of me sort of turning the camera on myself, so to be able to go back in history and sort of dig through those moments and take them and then weave them into my current work has been really rewarding and exciting.
How is that, going back and looking at yourself and being like, oh my god, look at me, I'm fabulous, but also what's going on there?
Absolutely. And just these moments of what was I thinking, and being in that moment and sort of reflecting back of this is what I wanted to do, but it wasn't quite there yet, and now I can do it because I have either the skills or I look like how I want to look like. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And actually, so I'm going to quote you again. I'm so sorry that I keep quoting you. But so in another article, you had said the histories that we don't have access to or weren't recorded. And I love that quote because so much of trans, queer, non-binary history, especially for people of color, has been lost, and we're still trying to uncover it. So do you think that there's a bit of that going on in your work, of just documenting yourself in a way,
Absolutely.
whether narratively or not?
Absolutely. I think that came from a documentary that was I don't want to use the word fake, but a documentary they made about someone else, and I just completely made them up. And so it was sort of referencing the fact that we don't really have we do have bits and pieces of queer history and trans history, but it's not everything, right? And I think by turning the camera on myself is a way of documenting this moment in time. Absolutely.
And so then how do we go about preserving works like yours and others so that this history is preserved for others and for future generations? Say young filmmakers coming up through, is it Chapman University?
Yes.
I mean, I think film festivals like the Seattle Trans Film Festival is key, right? It's pivotal. And I think the San Francisco Transgender Film Festival and queer film festivals are definitely avenues that I've found to support my work and to show my work and to have a wider audience. I think that trans shows specifically are just barely getting started, right? I think that I was in a trans show. It was all trans artists, and it was one of the first ones that had ever happened. So it's
when and where was this? So sorry.
No, it's fine. It was in. I'm sorry. It was called. Oh my god.
If your memory is
I will have to get it.
It's okay.
I apologize.
No, you're fine.
It was called Trans America, and it was it was in Texas, and then it traveled to a couple other places. So Trans America was the name of the show, and you can look it up. Sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine.
That was just a moment in time that was whoa, this happened, right? And it creates sort of a time capsule. So I think just continuing to be consistent and show and try to get your work out there.
And Flo, let's go back to the original question, which I can barely remember, but I believe it had to do with storytelling.
I really like what Sarah said about capturing in the time capsule. I think, something that I never really thought about was, you know, that like once I started documentary filmmaking was that I can start to tell my own stories, and like I have the most access to my own stories, obviously, because I'm the closest to myself. And yeah, I mean, it's storytelling is it's liberating. It's it being able to share a part of myself, whether that's through myself or through someone else, or I don't know. It's it's nice. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's a beautiful
I love
thing.
it.
Oftentimes,
Yeah.
I view all of us collectively telling stories as like this sort of metaphorical tapestry, and we're all adding in our own bits and pieces. And as you look back on culture, it is this tapestry, and by adding in our bits, whether it's Ben's or Flo's or Sarah's, it's just these pieces that just show like we're here, and
Right.
Yeah,
here's our stuff.
absolutely.
Any thoughts to add to that, Ben?
I really like what you just said. The kind of we were here, we exist. It's kind of reminds me of like cave paintings back in the very olden days, like the very first form of art. It was just people like desperately trying to be remembered, I suppose. Yeah, that's very fascinating to me.
I love that you brought in the caveman because the cave person, because yesterday during tea time I brought in my friend Voss Sanchez, and he has this delicious quote or whatever about storytelling and food, and how back in our ancient days we would sit around the fire and there were two things to do. There was eating and then there was storytelling. And in both ways you're kind of feeding someone, whether physically or mentally or emotionally or whatever. And going to the cave painting, it's kind of a way of recording that storytelling. And so, like, we're all kind of continuing this very ancient and primal tradition, even if we do it so very fancifully. Yeah. Well, I had questions in there. I promise I did, but I'm losing them. All right, so we're going to pivot just a little bit. And here are some thoughts that I had thought of myself. But how do you all feel about the word queer? And I know that's a very weird thing to go, but the reason this comes up for me is because before I transitioned, I identified very strongly as gay. I'm gay, this, that, and the other. But then as transitioning, you realize it's very gendered in connotations with people. And so I came to really start using the word queer, but there's such a history attached to it. And I'm just curious as to your thoughts on it.
Personally, I love identifying as queer, as genderqueer. I think, I mean, for me, it's very an encompassing term, and it feels very freeing and boundless. So yeah, that's for me.
Anybody else want to jump in there?
I mean, I agree with you, Flo. I feel the same way. And I'm like, my dad is also gay, and like, I remember like we like definitely like went back and forth, and we like had fights about it. Do you know what I mean? And we're like, this is what I like, and he's like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe you said that to me. Like, so it's just interesting the history of a word and how it can change over time, or like how you can sort of reclaim it, or like what that action looks like.
I love the reclaiming action that goes along with it.
Yeah.
No, because now my dad says it, and I love it.
Yay! We're changing hearts and minds one person at a time. Ben, any thoughts?
I do like the idea of kind of reclaiming things that have a shadowed or tumultuous history. I watched a documentary recently that was about the meme Pepe the Frog that kind of got turned into a hate symbol.
Right.
And recently, there's been a movement to kind of turn the whole thing around and make it a symbol of love and like positivity, which I think is just really interesting how these words and symbols and iconographies become either symbols of hatred or love or whatever it may be. And it's not like one entity doing that. It's kind of like us as a whole allowing that to happen. Yeah, it's just interesting to think about.
I had no idea about that documentary. I need to watch. I'm gonna go watch that.
I can't remember what it's called. I wish I had the name. I'm sure you can just search.
Yeah, I'll find
it.
I'll find it.
Okay, now let's pivot a little bit into what is the next thing that y'all are working on, and then we're going to play a fun little game. And Sarah, we'll start with you.
Okay. So my partner and I have made work together before, and then we sort of like shifted away from that, but we're starting to like work on a film together, which I'm super excited about.
Oh, can you tell us what the film is about, or
can.
do you not want? You don't have to.
No, I think like we're starting a family, so it's going to be sort of about that. Yeah.
Okay, I lied. We're not going to quit just yet. Let's talk about queer family planning.
So.
And I've been told that the doc is called Feels Good Man.
Mm.
Does that sound correct, Ben?
Yes. Thank you. That was going to drive me crazy.
But family planning. Okay. I need more details. I
think it's going to be like kind of like a queer like family, but like sort of like horror film, but like love story. It's sort of like something along those lines.
Did you say horror?
Yes, I did.
Okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. So I have my own history with horror. I am terrified of my own shadow. Okay. And I remember we were watching Haunting of Hill House, whatever, and now I just live with, broke neck man following me around. Like, just, all right, there you are. But it was in joining my friend and doing, she loves horror movies, and she asked me to be in one. I was like, fine, whatever. But in doing it, I realized that horror is a very interesting genre in that it allows us to work through our fears. And I ended up having a new respect for horror films. Mm-hmm. And so do you think that this film will allow you to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you said is really beautiful. I love it.
All right. Well, Flo, we're going to go on to you. Family planning and your next projects.
Family planning. Oh,
you don't have to answer that either.
Well, I definitely would love to start a family. I mean, I feel like I do have my own little found family already, and I mean, my partner and I are gonna move in together, so I'm excited for that. And then it's a big step. And then my 2 cats, and that's all I have capacity to think about in terms of the future. But sorry, what was the other question?
Your next projects, what you're working on next?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, you've got a lot going on in your life with graduating and moving in with your partner. Like, it's okay to not have something on the docket. Sometimes you just need to breathe.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so true. I think just breathing and just taking this time and play with my cats.
I love it. You worked so hard throughout your college career that definitely take time to breathe and
celebrate.
Right, exactly.
Like what you've done. Exactly.
Yes, very, very, very excited. But I'm so excited for whatever next film that I get to work on or that I get to, create. Is very, very excited, and Ben?
I'm excited to follow along. Yes, Ben. What are you doing next, and what do you believe about family planning?
I'm currently working on post-production on my thesis film, which has been a lot of fun. We actually deliver it tomorrow, so it's kind of crunch time at this point.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
Yes. But that's
for your
very
mental state, that is.
What was that? Sorry.
I'm so sorry for your mental state, because your mind has to be like 50,000 places at once.
A little bit. Just a little bit. And then after graduation, I'm hoping to do a few little documentaries and just kind of see what happens from there. I'm not much of a planner. Just kind of go with the flow and hope it works out, I guess.
It will work out. Okay, everything's going to work out, but let's pivot to a fun little game. And these are the next questions that will follow. They're just either or choices, and you just go with your gut of which one sounds great to you. How does that sound? Okay. The first one, mountain or beach? And we'll go Sarah, Flo, and Ben, because that circle's on the screen right there.
Beach. Absolutely.
Beach.
Yes.
I would go with this is hard because I'm from Las Vegas and I love the mountains, but the beach. I'm so the beach. Yeah.
Okay. Ben?
I gotta pick mountains. I've got to go against the grain on this one.
I love it.
I don't
so
like sand. So.
I'm right there with you. Okay, the next one. LA or New York City? Still same order, sorry.
Oh my God, New Orleans. Sorry.
I love it. Yes.
Gosh, I love New York. I was born in New York. I wasn't. I mean, like, my parents met in New York. My dad grew up in New York. I'm not too close with it because I moved to Las Vegas when I was really young, but I had the chance of going back there. And yeah, I would say New York.
New York, Ben.
I'd probably say New York as well, just for the East Coast. It's kind of what I grew up in and am used to.
Okay.
But I do love a lot of the aspects of the West Coast as well, especially the like national parks out here. Just amazing. It cannot be beat.
They are interesting. I'm going to personally say Seattle since this is Seattle Trans Film Festival. So you all lost on that one. Red or green?
Red.
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 Orange or blue?
I guess orange.
Orange.
Blue.
The contrarian Ben. Light or dark?
Gray.
Ooh, okay.
Dark.
Light.
Okay.
Dark is scary. I'm scared of the dark personally.
So am I. Especially with that Brokeback Man following me around.
Yes, exactly.
All right,
He's always
city or
watching.
country?
Country.
City.
Ooh. I guess city.
City, okay. Domestic or international?
Ooh, international.
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 Yes!
I've never gotten to really travel much, but so I guess I'll agree.
I'm right there with you all. Okay, and digital or analog?
That's hard.
Right?
I guess I'm gonna go digital.
Digital.
Digital too.
Digital.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay, fine. I'm right there with y'all. I hate an analog clock, so I don't know why I'm saying fine. All right, now this next one is a bit tricky, so I'm going to give you some options, and feel free to ask me to repeat. But a barony, a county, a march, a principality, a dukedom, a kingdom, or an empire?
A march.
March, okay.
Can you repeat them again?
I sure can. A barony, county, march, principality, dukedom, kingdom, or empire?
Maybe empire.
Empire. Okay. Ben.
I wish I knew the difference between a dukedom and a kingdom. Does a duke
Yeah.
have more or less authority than a king?
You have to choose one and then I will tell you.
Okay, I'll go with the dukedom.
Dukedom. Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So, and now last question. Not really last one, but whatever. Pick your favorite place in the world. Anywhere. Real or imagined.
I guess it would be right now in this specific moment. In this specific moment, I would go to Thailand because that's where my dad lives, and I haven't seen him in 12 years, so that's where I would go.
Okay. And now let's see. Why don't I have anything pulled up? But I believe that. So in the traditional peers, there are no non-binary options, but being the Duchess of Grant Park, I made a non-binary option, and it is the Marshal of Thailand. How about that? All right, Flo, your favorite place,
My
real or
favorite
imagined?
place? Oh, this is hard. Hold on. Ben, you gotta go. I need to think about this.
All right, Ben, you choose your favorite place.
I'll say Joshua Tree, California.
Joshua Tree, the Duke of Joshua Tree. I love that so much.
All the cactuses, yes. The cacti, sorry.
You're fine. And you had asked earlier what's the difference between a dukedom and a kingdom. They both have authority. How about that? And it just depends on whether or not a dukedom is inside of a kingdom or not. If it's outside, then the duke has just as much authority as a king.
Okay.
Okay.
I can work with that.
I would say. Okay. I'm gonna say my backyard, but that's because I'm moving very, very soon. And this is like my backyard is it's just grass, and then my roommates and I spend so much time there, and we have these big trees, and there's so many birds. I would say there's an empire of birds living in these trees, and they're just they're always arguing all the time, or I don't know, talking.
I love that so much. That is your empire.
Yes,
That
that
is
is
the empire. And, I actually didn't come up with the non-binary option for emperor, but I do like emperex.
I like
Ooh,
Experience. Yeah. So the emperex of your backyard. I love that so much. Thank you all for playing this fun little game. It's just, I don't know. I like it. And also, thank you so much for joining us in conversation today. I hope you all had a bit of fun, and you are all so incredibly gifted, and I cannot wait to see what future things that y'all put out there.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet all of you.
Likewise.
So
I
nice
hope
to
you'll
meet
stay in touch.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. That is it for today for Tea Time with the Translations Trans Film Festival out of Seattle. We hope that you'll join us tomorrow, where we are switching gears just a little bit, where I will be on the panel and Storm Miguel will take over hosting duties. Let's see if he can do it. I believe that you can. I truly believe that you can. And we have on two very special guests. Find out who they are by tuning in. I could spoil it now, but I won't. See you tomorrow.